welcome to this short episode I'm making. Today we're going to be looking at what the best settings are for YouTube and Instagram users for an internal and external environment. So let's begin. So what we're going to be looking at is the best settings for an indoor and outdoor environment. So if I switch my camera on, at the moment I've got no SD card on this, but if I click on the Q button here on this Canon 7D, I've got it in manual mode, I've got it on, and I've got it on Q mode. And now what the best settings for me are in a studio environment is the shutter speed. So the shutter speed is that one there, and essentially if I want to change it I do this. So if I would prefer to have it on a 1/1/125, which is not the quickest, but you got to remember, if you're in a studio environment you're going to have lots of internal lights. So it's not going to be like outdoor lighting where you're going to have constant light coming from all directions. You're going to have very specific light coming from specific directions. So therefore you might want to think about having a slower shutter speed in order to be able to have more exposure. The next thing is my f-stop. Now my f-stop, I've got an f8.0. So basically, you know, the higher the number, sorry, the bigger the number, the smaller the opening. So this is kind of a medium sized number, so it's f8, so it's not the biggest opening and it's not the smallest opening, it's kind of in the middle, I would say. The next thing I would have is in auto on the ISO, only because I think, you know, in an internal environment, you know, the camera can control it. You know, these days professional cameras are so sensitive, they've got such a high amount of sensitivity that it can sort of regulate what it's doing in that sense. The next thing I would do is have it on RAW. Again, if you want to change that, just sort of switch this around. And the reason why I would have it in RAW is because I'm shooting in the studio environment and I want to make sure I get a real crisp quality image. I'm not shooting hundreds and hundreds of images, I'm just shooting possibly one. So I would have that on RAW, okay? Yeah, so I'll have that on RAW. And the next thing I might do is change my white balance. Now in my white balance I've got a few things that I can change. So these three here are basically external, and then these ones here are internal. So I can maybe change it to tensor lighting, fluorescent lighting, flash. I'll probably have it on flash, to tell you the truth, because I'll probably have an external flash triggered to my lights. So I'll probably have it actually on that, or I'll have it on my Calgon, which controls the intensity of the light depending on what environment I'm in. So those are the settings I would have it on, so any of those, or I would have it on auto. But to play around with it, I'll probably fiddle around with these three first just to see how it looks. Okay, so that's internal studio environment. External studio environment, I'm going to go back, and this is for outdoors. So if you're shooting family pictures, you're doing a music video, you might want to consider about playing around with this. So because you've got constant light, I'll leave that on auto. I would change my ISO further down, so my aperture down to the lowest number. So in this case it's f5.2, and I'm shooting in quite a nice environment, outdoor environment with constant light. So I would leave it on that, f5.4, 5, 6 maybe. And my shutter speed, I would take that down, to tell you the truth, I would take that down to about between 130 and 150. Okay, the reason why I would do that is because there's plenty of light, so the camera does not need the shutter speed to be slower. It needs to be a certain speed, to be honest, a quicker speed really, to be honest, in order to be able to capture the image. So if I just take that image, there you go, see the shutter speed's really quick. Now I've got it on a tungsten light, so what I need to do is go back to my lighting, click on this, and I'm going to put it on shadow because I'm outdoors. Okay, so I might want to select one of these three. Okay, or auto. So if I select that one, okay, you can see that that picture is a little bit better now. Okay, so just to recap, I've just shown you some settings for internal and external environments for YouTube and Instagram users. So if you are shooting external, then these settings could apply to video and film. Then you might want to consider about changing these around. Thanks for watching, guys. Any questions, please post, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.